Hi, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Today we're going to have a look at the swales. I've got my fruit trees, nut trees, there's a few berries, but one thing you will notice, similar to my veggie garden the other day, it's all a little overgrown and needs lots of work. Starting at the top of my top swale, you'll notice my berry patch has overgrown, which is actually a good thing. I have been harvesting plenty of berries during spring, but these ones are mostly an autumn fruiting variety, and I've got lots of flowers coming for the main crop that comes in autumn. One great thing about the position of this berry patch is that it's right near where my animals move around and they keep it under control. Just next to my berry patch, I've got the first of my apricot trees, which are yet to produce any apricots. It may be too shaded in here. I haven't quite worked out what the problem is. Hiding in there is the second apricot. Might need a bit more space, I reckon. And over the back there is the third. They're all quite sizable trees now, so I think maybe if they're not going to grow fruit, I might try growing some vines up them. You could grow some kiwi fruit or even some passion fruit and make the most of the structure. I have various currant plants dotted around the swales. This one here is some black currants and they had a few berries on them. Right next to them are some sad looking rhubarb plants which really get knocked about in the heat. The other day, well, we had two hot days, a 39-degree day and a 41-degree blustery day. And these plants don't stand up to that very well. It's coming up to an exciting time of year around here at the moment, and that's when my peaches ripen. At the moment, these peaches, this is the yellow peach, I can't remember the real name of it. They're still quite firm, so not quite ready to be harvested. Now, even though I've got the bird netting on, it doesn't stop the little bush rats that have tunnelled in right next to the tree trunk. And just further down, we have the white peach. Now, I have been harvesting some of these. It has been a little bit affected with brown rot, but I've been pulling those off and it seems to have slowed the issue down. But I've just noticed we've got the same rat issue going on. The rats aren't silly. They know exactly when this fruit is at its ripest and have moved in to start enjoying it. There's a little one that's got brown rot happening on it, so I'll get rid of that. But I think today might be the day that we get the rest of this fruit off. It's got a little bit of give there. Now I think with peaches you can pull them off and they will continue to ripen, although the sugars have already developed. So they won't get any sweeter, but they will become more palatable. Look at that. Oh. It smells beautiful and ripe. Just need to cut that off and that will be delicious for lunch. Leaving the white peach, we move down along the swale, and for the first time I've covered my nectarine tree. It takes a bit of effort to cover these trees over. I put some steel posts in and then this plastic piping and finally the netting over the top. So the tree's got to have a bit on it to make it worthwhile. But this year I figured the nectarine had produced enough fruit that it was worth protecting them. Now at this point they're just starting to colour up, but they're still quite firm. A lot of them are still quite green, so it's a little bit hard to identify with the camera. But there's plenty here, and I'm looking forward to when these all ripen. Another tree that I've covered for the first time is I call it my orange peach, because it's a really dark orangey colour flesh. And again, I don't know the name of this peach tree, but it's different to my other two, the yellow and the white. Now this little tree was the one that was really badly affected with the curly leaf, but at the moment it's looking pretty good actually. A little hard to make out, but the fruit's still quite small. And I did find that they ripened quite late in the season, like maybe even April. Leaving the stone fruit trees for the moment, we have my fig tree, which a friend had propagated and gave to me, and it's finally starting to kind of really get going. It gets hit by the frosts a little bit here, so I'll have to be a bit more mindful of that. No fruit as yet, but it's looking pretty good. Continuing to move along the swales, probably it's hard to see through the grasses, but there is a second patch of raspberries that I've planted here. They're just starting to get going, but hopefully that'll be another really abundant patch once we've got lots of plants there. I make raspberry jam and sell it at my little stall, so getting lots of these productive plants going sort of helps support that. Moving up from my raspberries, we come across two of my hazelnut trees. This one here is Barcelona. Now, it's not really known for its abundance. It's got some little nuts on it this year. Last year was the first year, and they look a little bit deformed. So it's not a really huge producer, but right next to it here, now it's Cosford, I think. I'll have to check what the name is, but this tree is always really abundant. It's got plenty of nuts on it. This tree is probably 6 years old, so it doesn't take that long to become really abundant. We did have some high winds move through the other day, so there's quite a few nuts lost here. But just looking at that little branch, that's how abundant this tree is. There's just heaps just on that one small little branch. Two olive trees here are looking pretty healthy. No flowers on them as yet. I've probably made conditions too nice for them with an abundance of moisture and perhaps a little bit too much shading just yet. This is the kind of work I've got to do. I've got to come around and cut down these blackberry plants before they take over too many spots. Now next we're working our way through to over here where I've got something very exciting to show you. It's always pretty exciting when a tree produces for the first time. Now this is a Bur Bosch pear tree, and it's got quite a number of small fruit coming on it. This is my other pear tree, which is yet to produce. Something I do need to put a bit of time into managing is all of these support trees. For the last couple of years, I really should have been chopping those down a bit more. The idea with those is to grow them, chop them down, use it as mulch, and just sort of keep them growing, but keep them quite small. So these trees are huge now. They need a lot of work just to chop that down and get the sun into my more productive trees as the system sort of starts to change over. I've got 3 almond trees up on this swale. This is the first of them, with a second just over there, with the third little one just down the hill there. Now they haven't become productive. Unfortunately, even though these trees are quite large, in spring, when they flower, it's quite early and we still get quite hard frosts, which affects the flower. And I also find rosellas come around and eat the flowers. So there's nothing left really to form the nut. Although occasionally one flower does survive. Look at that. I've got a fruit up there. Don't know what I'll do with that nut. I might be able to share it with someone if I make almond meal. It's looking pretty dry up in this end of the swale. Lots of grasses. With those hot days, this all sort of dried out a little bit through here. Now you can see just over the back there, I've planted a stone fruit tree. I think that one might be a peach tree. And just hiding through there is one of 3 new hazelnut trees that I've planted. That's the second one over there. I've been trying to add in some more productive trees along the swale, just at various spots. You never know if one tree will get disease somewhere else and you need to rely on production of another tree. So that's my plan, is to just keep constantly adding more trees in, so that once trees become unproductive, you can get rid of those, but you've still got something to enjoy. My white mulberry tree seems to have got some good growth on it this year. It does attempt to make a few berries, but so far hasn't been too successful. In this spot, it has been hit by winds a little bit, especially in early spring. But I've got some larger trees here now to protect it a bit while it gets a bit larger. But I'll make sure I get out here and give this a bit of a trim so that it doesn't take over completely. Oh, I think you can kind of spot the work I have to do here. These vigorous berry plants need controlling. But in this little caged area is my one successful, well, it's still alive, so that's a success, avocado trees. Getting avocados going here has proved quite difficult. The frosts get them, and they also tend to dry out during summer, so I'm just not on to looking after them sufficiently just yet. And you do need more than one to become productive, so I'll probably have to put in some effort at some point if I'd like some avocados. The recent heat has really knocked about my elderberry plants, especially in some of the more dry areas of my swale. But they grow pretty abundantly at most times of the year, and if these did dry, cutting down these make great stakes for in the garden. So you can put that to good use. We will see plenty more vigorous plants around other areas of the swale, and they propagate easily, so if some die, you've always got a backup plan. Heading towards the end of the top swale now. This end actually needs to be made a bit more productive. No work's been done here, but I do have a little black mulberry plant. It did have a few small fruits on it in spring, nothing on there now. Now I have been noticing some of my pioneer species trees, this was a Tagersasti, have just upped and died, so I've got to get around and chop those down, and of course clear the surrounding berry plants. In this section I've got a few natives, 1, 2, 3, there's a little one here, and this fourth one that I did plant in one of my videos. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description. They took off quite well, and there was only just one little one that is still struggling just in here. I don't know if that one will survive. It looks like it's been dried off a bit with this recent heat, but it's hanging in there. Coming out of that top swale, it's always nice to have a look across kind of the valley and then down to my bottom swale, where you'll find the same is happening with some of the pioneer species down there too. They're just kind of dying off. So I'll work at replacing some of those this year. Just below my bottom swale, I've got the grazing crew. They're still enjoying quite a bit of green grass, which is quite different to this time last year. We had a dumping of rain in November, and pretty good conditions up until now for keeping the grass green. At the furthest end of my bottom swale is one of my walnut trees. It's looking quite healthy, but it still didn't get any flowers on it this year. I don't know if they kind of come a bit later. I know it doesn't kick into life till fairly late, so I'll keep an eye on that. I haven't worked out what these do just yet, but I like how healthy it's looking. When I'm out here clearing some of the dead pioneer trees, I might give these Tagersasti a bit more of a trim as well. Next to these Tagersasti trees, and hopefully far enough away from my walnut that it won't be affected, a couple more stone fruit. Now something came through and ate that. I don't know whether it's wallabies that eat it or wombats, but something kind of chopped it down a bit. And I've got a second tree hiding in here. Now that's also been a little bit trimmed. Not sure if it's a plum or a peach tree. Might need to clear that and give it a little bit of mulch too. Another example of an elderberry which has really been knocked about by the heat. Hiding in this cage is the second of my walnut trees. Kind of looks a bit knocked around up the top there, a bit sparse of leaves. Don't know what's happening there, but it's got some good young growth on it. So I'm not too worried about its health. What I might do though is clear this off the cage that's surrounding it. My chickens actually love eating all of this, so if I'm feeling generous to them sometime, I'll bring that over to them. Perhaps a little bit hard to make out in amongst this jungle is one of my macadamia trees. I have to really look after them through winter, and this year with some late frosts, I left the covers on them for quite some time. What I might need to do now is trim back some of this surrounding growth to give them a bit of chance to get going. But with the dry conditions, I don't imagine they'll be doing much growing with the heat and the dry. But I want to get them ready for autumn when they might put on a little bit more growth. But all of this has to really go. Now, we might have to do a bit of bush bashing, but we'll go over and we'll check out how the second macadamia tree is doing. Again, I need to clear some of this surrounding foliage. Two of my elderberries, which I did plant to give this little tree protection as it was getting going, but I think it's stopping the light now. Perhaps it could benefit by removal of a bit more of this netting. But once again, this plant's looking pretty healthy. This is a Granny Smith apple tree and it doesn't have any fruit on it. It did have, but it seems to have dropped off. All the birds have got it. I don't net these trees out here. Now what you will notice is it is pretty surrounded by these huge pioneer species type trees. All the acacias grow huge. So once again, like in other areas of my swales, I need to do a bit of work to get all of this foliage down and creating mulch for the soil. There's one of the apples that didn't make it. And another. We're on to a second apple tree which could benefit from more space and light. And a third apple tree. I can't quite remember what these are. I'll have to look them up. And at the base of it, we've got some red currant plants, which really are just there to help feed the birds. I love these little bottle brush plants with their lovely red flowers. The birds like them too. And just beyond is the fourth apple tree, and it's got an apple on it. This is a Bonza apple. Now I don't know if that one will make it till it's ripe and I can enjoy it, because the birds really get to enjoy the fruit out here. I could probably one day put a cover over it to save it, but I don't see the point just yet. The red currant plants are doing quite well out here with no watering. And this apple tree could probably do with a little bit more clearing around it as well. I really didn't intend these trees to get so large. I've been meaning to chop them down to give trees like this little olive tree a bit of a go. Probably too much shading to get any flowers on this plant as yet. And likewise for the plants that I've got over here, I've got 3 more near the dam. They're certainly putting on growth, but I don't expect flowers and fruit with all the shade. So definitely have to come out and deal with this. You can see in there where I have chopped the tree down, but all the growth just takes off around that spot. These are pretty amazing trees with how fast they grow. Now that's our bottom swale done. We'll move past my dam, which didn't quite fill during winter and spring, but did get a bit more water into it. Unfortunately, it's already going down a bit. I don't know if you can make it out, but my little ducks are just hiding in the shade underneath the decking over there. Lots of wild ducks enjoying all the weed that's growing in the dam at the moment. Now you do have to be careful as you move around the property because you can come across, oh, can you see it moving there? That's a little snake. Now I'm not sure if it's a copperhead or a tiger, but I did have a tiger in my duck house the other night when I went to put my ducks to bed. So you just got to be very wary and watch out, and that's why I wear gumboots around the place. Now somewhere in there that snake disappeared. A few minutes later I wouldn't have even known it was there when I'm moving through. So it's best to make plenty of noise when you're moving around the property at any time of year really, because I've seen them even in winter. I've seen the snakes around here, so you just got to be very careful and watch out. But here we are at my roadside swale. The first tree in here is the plum tree, which we're going to check out. See that lovely fruit there? It's just starting to ripen. This is my Satsuma plum tree, which seems to be my most productive, and that's why I've got the cover over this one. The plums are really lovely. I do make products for my honey stand out of the plums, plum jams and plum chutneys, but it still leaves me with plenty in the freezer that I can drag out and enjoy at any time of year. And next to that tree, they're not ripening as yet, are my Mariposa plums. Now they're generally a larger plum. Last season I did get some off this tree even though I didn't cover it from the birds. This tree is a little bit affected with the curly leaf, but it still doesn't stop it being productive. Here's some more currant plants. Now these ones are black currants, and it's the first time I've noticed them with fruit on them actually. And that leads us to my pomegranate shrub. Lovely red flowers. Now I haven't had a pomegranate on this as yet. It sort of gets close. It creates sort of fruit that looks like that, but not the full-on pomegranate with all the seeds. Now here's a few more currant plants that are really in this area to fill in space, and of course for the birds. Another sad looking rhubarb plant which could probably do with some more water and less heat. And here's my cherry tree, which is growing into a magnificent looking tree, and it did have some fruit on it, but again you're competing with the birds in this area. Moving through here, I did take out a couple of the Tagessästti trees that have really got too big, and I've managed to get in a couple of stone fruit. Now one I think's probably a plum tree and one might be a peach tree. I still have this very unproductive fig tree here that one day I'll chop down. But right next to it is the beautiful heartleaf fig tree that produces beautiful sweet fruit. And usually at this time of year it would have fruit that's more obvious on it, but we did get the late frost and it actually knocked some of the branches so much that they kind of died off. So it's had to put in a lot of effort to get some more branches and leaves going. But I'm happy to see there's a few young fruit just starting. My quince tree had quite a few fruit on it up until recently, and this black spot, which I haven't done anything about, challenges the tree, and the fruit's all dropped off now. I think with this tree I might need to treat it somehow if I want to get any fruit from it. And I don't know if there's anything organic that I can do about it. I'll have to do some homework. We're nearly to the end of the roadside swale. Just down further are a couple of almond trees, which, like my other almond trees, don't have anything on them, so I won't bother showing you those. But just behind me here is my feijoa plant, and this year is the first year that it's had flowers on it. And it looks like some of them might be turning into fruit. So that's pretty exciting. So as you can see, the swales are much the same as the front vegetable garden. Pretty wild and out of control, but with some production coming along to feed me. So it's all good. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.